Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon, whenever you're hitting this. I am Pierre Poilievre's half sister. If anybody doesn't know that, now you know that, and knowing is half the battle. Okay. I think today what I'm going to talk about is kind of like a forced treatment and forced programming. I think I mentioned this in some of my other videos about me being a survivor of trafficking. Uh, Even in the area that I live in, I've been residing in this area for like 20 years plus, and within the area that I live in, I had been trafficked like pretty much nonstop up until like a year ago when I pretty much said I'm done. And it kind of continued after that only because the people were sort of able to finagle the situation and just pretty much abduct me. And that's been known, that's been documented. There is documentation on that now. So if anybody has any concerns, if they have questions about that, I encourage you to leave a comment. Reach out. You want to email. It's in the description box of this channel. And if you have anything to say that I don't personally like, maybe that's okay. I'll leave the comment section open. I don't edit anything. I don't filter anything on this channel. So you want to say whatever you want to say, go ahead and say. I would appreciate if you would be more open with the comments. Okay. So in the situation that I'm in, as part of sort of trying to erase my existence, I can't say for sure if Pierre was involved with that particular thing, sort of trying to like do really kind of delete my existence, like push me into another family system. So there could be some sort of family program wrote on me based on the education that I was put into and the education that I have, sort of bringing me to another family system and sort of doing whatever it took to possibly rewrite my identity, rewrite my mind, or rewrite my mindset about what I was specifically supposed to adapt to. Uh, Turns out that this is really common for individuals who've experienced trafficking, and I've noticed that this is something that is across the board for people that are, either escaping from abuse or have been sort of pushed out of their family system or for whatever reason brought to another place, left there, and create sort of a problematic network around them, sort of keep them there in that situation, that they don't know what's happening. A lot of times people who went through that don't know what's happening. They have all these people from all these networks that individuals who did this with them or to them created. So it's like, how do you say that? Create this bubble around them that is like abusive and obnoxious and hateful and aggressive that is impossible to escape from or really even identify. People who have experienced that a lot of times disappear in ways that like they don't even recognize themselves years later because they had to adapt so much to the constant overwhelming narcissistic abuse, overwhelming constant prompting to change everything about themselves. So then yes, there is no documentation that makes any sense. There'd be no documentation, no connection, anything that makes any sense. There'd be a bunch of people, a bunch of collaborations looking around, sort of looking at the documentation and going, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and sort of more needs to like get more information to identify something that should be easily identifiable, but it turns out that it's specifically created like that to erase people, to move them out of a situation, move them into another situation where they can be held captive and abused and basically, like I said, programmed to have their whole idea of themselves just easily snapped into something completely different. ABA therapy, if you want to call it therapy, is really notorious for this sort of thing. And anybody who's been in sort of that thing and they have to go to another therapy, there's a DBT therapy that is also notorious for that sort of thing. It's just about involving a person's emotions or fear of other people's emotions. Think about it like it is like someone who has been sort of like a prisoner of war or someone who has been a captive in a hostile situation that there is no support and there is nobody on purpose, by the way, this isn't by an accident, there is nobody who will relate to them like at all, whether this has to do with adoption or whether this has to do with indigenous ancestry, whether this has to do with keeping the familial money in the position it should be, you know what I mean, where it is at this point, keeping the power where it is, where it was historically. Not really sure, but what I do know is that I'm not the only person who's ever been through something like this. Like I said, whether or not adoption has to do with it, it does in certain circumstances, but in other circumstances, not so much. It has to do with vulnerability. It has to do with whether a person is being seen as being vulnerable or at risk for something, and a lot of things can happen after that. A lot of things can be changed, a lot of rules can be made, or a lot of rules can be broken. This happens to people a lot who've been born into gangs or have been affiliated with gangs or who've been affiliated with any kind of cult or born into a cult, that sort of thing. It could also happen with someone or people whose religious background or religious affiliations are so strict and abusive that they almost disappear as part of being part of it. Conversion disorder or conversion therapy is another one. It's a rewriting someone's whole sense of what makes sense. Like their entire identity basically becomes in question, and they start to question themselves too a lot. And it's just necessary for me to make a statement on this because this is something that continues and will continue probably for the rest of my life. Probably for the rest of my life, this is going to happen to me, and probably for the rest of my life, someone or people who are connected to some power and some affiliates, whether or not Pierre is specifically personally involved, I do not know, and I don't want to make a guess on that because I just don't want to step in that particular thing. That's a little bit too controversial for my taste, okay? This is just something that I know will probably not end. And as part of being a survivor of, like I said, survivors of trafficking, and all these other things that come with what that is, it would be my duty, I believe, at this point, as an adult, to speak about this, and my duty as a human being, and a Canadian citizen, and an individual person who's been through a lot of reclaiming myself and reclaiming my truth and reclaiming my ancestry. And like I said, Pierre and I share the same father. Whether or not we share the same ideological experiences, I doubt that's very much. I doubt that very much. I doubt that we share that particular ideological experience that I believe. And I think it makes sense that if a lot of people support one side of something, if there's apparently, if there's two sides, say hypothetically, this is a hypothetical, okay? Say hypothetically he's over here and I'm over here, okay? Say hypothetical there's a scale that's weighing both of us up and down like this, and he's over here and I'm over here, and he's up there and I'm down there, or he's down there and I'm up there, whatever that means. There would be this hypothetical understanding that whatever would benefit him would not benefit me. Basically, whatever he believes would benefit him, and the majority of people that he supports or support him, hypothetically, it should not benefit me. Hypothetically, whatever he's involved in supporting and supports him should specifically invalidate my experience and should specifically put me in a position of lower and specifically put me in a position of powerlessness in relation to. That's a hypothetical. That's an hypothetical. This is not something that I personally involve myself in. If people sort of see that, that's okay. Leave a comment if you want to ask questions, you want to say anything. Open, comment section's open. It's just about the power play. It's just about the understanding of someone who may not have ever experienced that level of powerlessness. Maybe say hypothetical, maybe someone, or maybe he has been through some sort of situations that put him in a position of powerlessness and feel that understanding of that. But I would think that in this situation, this would be me alone speaking for myself. And this would be alone speaking from my experience and almost in opposition to his experience. And that's okay if that's what it seems like, if that's what it looks like, and if that's what it is, it's what it is. And like I said, I'm open to comments, I'm open to questions, and I'm open to people reaching out in the email. Whatever direction his obligations or his experience or his financial wherewithal, whatever not you want to call that, whatever he believes in, whatever direction that's going in, it's going in, I believe, without my input. And I think that's okay, because there has been more than enough nonsense in my life because of the decisions that his constituencies made, or the decisions that the familial context that we're in has made to detriment of my future and to detriment of my personal future and any children I may have, their future and their freedom. And I think that is what it is. And I don't personally think that's nice at all. I just want to not be given all these emotions here. So that's just what it is. That's just what it is, that there is been forced upon me. I mentioned in the first video, the introduction, I think if anybody's seen that, go check it out. If not, I'll link it. I'll try to remember to link it. That there was forced therapy, forced a lot of things, and even attempt to force sterilize me. There actually was an attempt to force sterilize me. And, well, it is what it is. A lot of times that happens to people who have been put through situations that people would want to sort of take away their ability to propagate independently. And I'll just say that for what it is. Whatever individuality, whatever connections involved in that is what it is. And I think I said it would be my duty as an adult, as a consenting adult, to report that. And anybody who's been through anything like that, like I said, comes from the need to keep something quiet. It comes from the need to keep something quiet, something truth, something real, something that would be, instead of tea with real, some reality, something that would make someone's, or take someone's power away to make the decisions that they make. I believe that this sort of thing, something like this happens. I think her last name, Kennedy. I believe, I don't know her first name. I want to say Rosemary, but I think I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong about this, but she was lobotomized. That was Kennedy's younger sister. She was lobotomized because she was a socialite and she was speaking and asking questions and investigating and being involved in things that were secret and of security that perhaps she wasn't clear to know, and she was lobotomized. And I have been chemically restrained, physically restrained, like I said, force-fed, force-starved, forced on drugs, forced off drugs, forced in communities, forced in families that are not my experience, forced into even cultures that don't make any sense to me, cultures that turn out for me were actually damaging to my sense of self and damaging to my sense of right and wrong. I don't mind people, like I said, asking questions. I don't mind people sort of having their opinions about that. I'm only stating the facts from what I know. And if anybody's been involved and knows the facts, like I said, leave a comments. Documentation is documentation is documentation. Evidence is evidence is evidence. Even though it's been doctored somewhat, and even though it's specifically designed to put me in a position of lower than someone else and powerless to defend myself, specifically powerless to defend myself legally. Specifically powerless to defend myself legally. This is something that's coming to the surface of reality. And it's really, really nice for me to see that I am I'm in my late 30s here. So it's nice to know that I've survived this, and it's nice to know that I can bring some reality, like I said, having tea with real, bring some reality to the situation. Hopefully people will appreciate that. Hopefully this will help clear up some confusion in the familial context and in the cultural context and in the power context, whatever is really going on here. Like I said, I'll link some information about Kennedy's sister if I can find it. And whatever else I mentioned in this video, I think I mentioned another video, I'll link that one too. Like I said, please, I'm open to comments, I'm open to questions. You want to reach out to my email, it's available. All right, thank you. Take care.